Hello everybody and welcome to a new video looking at a new release, a new simulation game no less. It's a favourite genre of mine I don't get to talk about nearly as much as I would like to. This one is called Railway Empire. It's been developed by Kalypso. It's published by Kalypso. It's developed by a team called Gaming Minds, who have done a number of other simulation and strategy games that I have really enjoyed over the years. It's a regular partnership between the developer and the publisher, and it's been a fruitful one. This game, Railway Empires, is the first kind of modern transport tycoon style game on the PlayStation 4. There are a couple of old ones, a couple of ports, Industry Giant and Transport Giant, I believe they're called, and they were fun enough, but they're definitely showing their age. This one is modern with modern presentation values and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. My full review of the game will be up on digitallydownloaded.net. But I thought I'd give you an idea of what to expect from the game and show you, the basics of it, because yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I really want as many people as possible to play it, because it's definitely a genre that I'd like to see more of, and I'd like to see developers rewarded for, especially if they put them on console, because this one works really well on console. Usually people think that tycoon games only work on PC with mouse and keyboard, but this game definitely proves that wrong. I think it's a great game, and I really approve it. So, just to show you, the actual gameplay before I get into the really cool feature that I really love about it. The gameplay, as you can see here, it's set in the US, back in the day when railways were first being built across the country. It's a very big country. Those railways were monumental efforts back in those days, and really helped the American economy kickstart and become the kind of country that it has become today. Without those railway networks, that would never have happened. So you get a little bit of history through playing. You also get a chance to kind of see, the way that the transport network's built up in a fairly authentic way. All the story-based missions recount, I guess, the story about how the trains were built, the train networks, the rails were built, and the cities that they linked up and helped to develop. What you're seeing right in front of you is the free play mode. That's the mode I generally play in strategy or simulation games, because yeah, I like the sandbox nature of it all. And as you can see, I'm set on playing this one on the West Coast and linking up Los Angeles and various other West Coast cities. And what you do is, firstly, you have to build train networks between the major cities, and that obviously helps them grow by facilitating a passage of people from one city to the other. You also need to build railway stations and railway networks out to rural areas, to farmlands, so that the cities can get the resources in that they need to start to grow. As you're about to see, I'm going to build at the moment I'm building a train between the two cities, but what I'll build in a moment is another train network that takes you out to the farm, and the farm in this case creates corn or manufactures corn, which will then be distributed to the cities via the train network. And the point of the game is obviously to show that without this kind of fast movement of massive amounts of people and product, the growth in the cities that happened throughout the American, through the American industrial age, that wouldn't have happened to anywhere near the same extent, and America wouldn't have been able to capitalize on its massive land and the amount of good quality land and the variety of the land that allows it to grow so many different things and allow kind of cities to specialize in various products and all that kind of stuff. So you have to build the stations close to the resources that they're going to be collecting. You can build bigger stations which can collect resources from a wider range of areas if there's a couple of farms that are relatively close to one another, and that's a good thing. You obviously need to link them up by a train, and trains are actually interesting in that they have to kind of be on quite flat ground in order to work. They don't actually climb hills very well at all. So a lot of the time, you'll be trying to manipulate the tracks around the landscape so it works, so the train can get into the stations across the gentle curves that they need to actually be able to turn. And then also, you need land that's flat enough that they can ride across that, or you need to pay extra money to build bridges and stuff. And landscape being landscape, it's quite the gradients can be quite significant. Especially, this is a fairly authentic take on America, the American landscape. So the maps are huge, and the distance across them is huge, and the variety of landscapes, as I mentioned before, is quite huge. The other thing you obviously need to consider is how you can have multiple trains on the one track work at a time, and that's the one track at a time, and that's where a lot of the strategy of the game comes in. You'll need to build, diverging tracks and then put signals in and all that kind of stuff, so you can really maximize the use of your assets, because building stations and single tracks for every single train that you've got running is a very inefficient way of doing things and will quickly send your company bankrupt. What you can't see in this is you're also competing against other players, or AI opponents, and those rival transport tycoons can also send you bankrupt if you're not able to build in a fast enough way and get resources moving quick enough so your company becomes uncompetitive and stuff like that. So it's all kind of a very typical simulation in that sense. It's capitalism 101 and transport movement 101 and the movement of resources around cities and stuff like that. It's all very standard stuff, and it's all very basic kind of level economics and economic theory at play, but it's it's really engaging, it's really interesting. It's, like you can see, it's quite an attractive game, and what you're about to see is, I guess, the fruits of your labor is really well rewarded in this game, because once you've built a track and a train and you've got it going, you can actually ride along with the train. You saw it at the start of the video, but I'm going to show you a really cool video of a really cool train ride, and you can actually ride your entire train network this way. It's not the most efficient thing to do, because while you're on the train, obviously time's still going on around you, and you can still be losing money if you're not watching what's going on, but I can't resist, because it's so awesome to ride these kind of old trains and see the landscape kind of fly by and actually watch your cities grow, because, like I said at the start, one of the big goals in this is to help the cities grow by having the trains deliver enough people and supplies there that they can sustain a larger population. And as that happens, the cities get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's a nice reminder, I guess, of the importance that public transport and trains play on the growth of cities and the economic health of cities and all that kind of stuff. It's something that we often forget about these days, now that everybody has cars and all the internet, so they work from home more often and all that kind of stuff. And flights are cheaper, so it's easier to freight stuff around. There is still a very fundamental role that trains have in the health of society, and games like this are actually pretty good at reminding us of that, I like to think, and reminding us of just how cool it was to ride trains. So as you can see here, I've actually got 2 trains locked at this stage of the game. This is one of the earliest story missions. As you play along, you get another resource, research points, which you can use to unlock more advanced trains, faster trains, better tracks, more goods, and all that kind of stuff. Keep you playing and to keep you growing and give you more opportunities and variety of things to do. So I've got a slightly faster train than the first train I had, and I'm about to ride it. I'm setting up a 2-way. It's actually going to be a 3-way, because it's also going to stop in the farm in the middle there. But it's a track between two. It's a route between 2 cities, and it kind of bypasses another city, because I wanted to grow 2 of the satellite cities to the main one that the scenario is growing. I'm building in, obviously, the split, because this is a fairly heavily used bit of track now at this stage of the game. I'm building in the split so I can have 2 trains running at the same time and not have them crash or have to wait for a long period of time immobile while they wait for the other train to pass on by. And any minute now, I'm about to finish this track and network, and you'll get to see me ride the train. Okay, so here we go. My train's just left the main, or the first station. That's the train there. So I'm going to jump on him, and here we go. Off we go. We're watching the train go on its route, and we actually get the spectacle of a lightning storm, a thunderstorm, as we go along, which is pretty cool. There are weather effects. Obviously the weather is not necessarily good for the trains. Lightning storms aren't always a good thing if a train's running through them, but you know, that's part of the simulation experience. Of course, you need to deal with disasters and all that jazz, and in this case my train's not going to get hit by lightning, so you don't need to worry about that. I'm not spoiling anything, and there's not going to be any death and destruction. But yeah, it's a nice visual thing to look at, of course, and it gets nice and dark and atmospheric. And what you really get a sense for as you play this, especially if you do take the time to sit on the train and kind of watch the landscape fly by, is just the kind of the distances that were involved in these train networks back in those days. We're not talking about a city network, which is, you know, a stop, you know, every couple of minutes, to the point where you can almost walk between train stations, and it's, you know, not a big deal. Back in those days, these trains were covering vast distances, and it took a lot of engineering, took a lot of money, and you know, as you can see as I go across a bridge, if you just imagine, you know, how much work would have gone in back in those days to create these bridges and get the trains actually from one city to the other. It's just a massively impressive feat of engineering. And what I really love about this game is the way it really makes me realize again just how impressive those early days of industrial, you know, innovation were. As you can see, you're passing on. That's the city that I bypassed with this new bit of track that I put in. I've got other trains obviously going to that one, and that's cool. The network at this stage is getting pretty good. And we're back on the long and narrow again. Just went through a supply depot. You've got to build supply depots. You've got to worry about the maintenance of your trains. Obviously, they do degrade and need repairs, and can break down. And if they break down, the entire rest of the network can be affected, because all of a sudden, you know, trains are in the way of other trains. And if you've ever experienced Sydney City Rail, you would know very well what a delay on one train somewhere can do to the rest of the network, i.e. make it stop working completely. And there we go, another split. This is all quite easy to do. The interface of the game is very straightforward and very clean, and unlike the earlier ports of the old Industry Tycoon and Industry Giant and Transport Giant games, it's very easy to understand what's going on in this game. It's very clean, it's very minimalist in design, but complex in execution, and that's all very good for the game, because simulation games can get very complex if you let them, and the developers here have done a really good job in keeping things as simple as possible. And this is a couple of hours work what I've done here, and that's, if that, maybe an hour's work to really kind of, to firstly create a train network that spans the entire Midwest, as in this case, and then, you know, be able to enjoy it and ride on it. And we're just coming up to the major train stop now. I've got pretty much all of my trains converge on this one, so after an hour's work, this has grown from a tiny little village to, well, not a bustling city, but, you know, a decent collection of people. So yeah, look forward to the full review of this on digitallydownloaded.net. It's a great game, really recommend it. Simulation fans are going to love it, as I love it. And thanks for watching the video. Enjoy the game, enjoy the review, and we will see you at the next one.